Welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked, where passion meets possibility. Here's your host, Meredith Calloway.
Hello, and welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked podcast. I am Meredith Calloway, your host, and on today's episode, my guest is Erin Camin, the founder of Brilliant Escapes. Welcome to the podcast, Erin. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Meredith.
Absolutely. So, in my little bit of digging and research, preparing for this recording, I, was looking at your website, going through the About Us. And what I love about your story is that you and I have a pretty similar story, but yours is even more sexy, I think. You have a little bit of the eat, pray, love thing going on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you transitioned from burnt out corporate marketing exec into a luxury travel advisor?
Sure. So it was a bit of a eat, pray, love, probably mostly eating, less of the other two. But back in 2018, I realized I was really burned out from just about 14, 15 years in the ad agency world. It really
Yeah.
wears on you. And especially in New York, it can be pretty exhausting.
So you were in New York.
Yes. I
Okay.
was in New
Yes.
York. It's tough. And I just knew like I needed a change. I needed something, but I didn't know what it was. And talking with my therapist, we talked about maybe just, taking some time off to travel. And originally I said maybe a month. And she asked me, do you think that's enough time? And I said, probably
When we're in
not.
the corporate world, a month sounds like forever, doesn't it?
Exactly. I was being very practical, like it was just a month and I'll figure out my life. And eventually I decided on about 6 months. That turned into 7 months. And then eventually it was 10 months that I actually traveled.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was amazing. I spent 3 months in Europe. I maxed out my Schengen visa timing.
Okay. Yeah.
And I spent a lot of that time in France. I worked on a vineyard for a month. So I did
Wow.
the grape harvest and got to work on another farm and helped, press the grapes and, prep for the olive harvest. And
Wow.
it was amazing, especially after being in corporate world for so long. Spending the day just being outside all day
Yeah.
and using your hands and having a tangible product
Yeah.
was really something. Like it was not just, sitting on conference calls and being on my computer all day.
Yeah.
And I knew that there was something special about that experience. And then when I then traveled to Southeast Asia and I spent
Wow.
eventually 7 months there. So I plan to just travel around Asia, do like 4 month, sort of the traditional, backpacker loop. I was a little old for the backpacker vibe, but I was doing that kind of experience. And I got to Koh Tao, Thailand, and I wanted to learn how to scuba dive. And so I decided I'd stay for about a week and do my open water certification and maybe do the advanced certification and then make my way elsewhere. And I ended up falling in love with scuba diving. And I stayed a few more weeks and I did the rescue diver program. And then as soon as I did that, they said, why don't you just become a dive master? And so I skipped my flight home that I had planned.
Oh my gosh.
I found new subletters for my apartment and I stayed in Thailand. I found an apartment and I lived there for 4 months. And I did my dive program. And that was also very out of character for me to totally change my plans, kind of at the drop of a hat. But it was the best decision I could have made because I not only fell in love with diving, but I think I gave myself the opportunity to take a risk and get out of my comfort zone. And that carried with me once I got home. And so that
At
was
least
really,
prepared you for entrepreneurship, that's for sure.
it did. Figuring out how to sublet my apartment from Thailand was challenging. I was lucky
That's
to have a
amazing.
good friend to help me. So yeah, so I finished that trip. I came home. It was the summer of 2019, and I had done some research and knew a little bit about being a travel advisor, like getting into the host agency world. I'd done a little of that research, and I just heard amazing things about GTN. And so I scheduled a call with Sandy,
Yep,
and we chatted for about half an hour. And I was like, I'm signing up. I'm doing the travel MBA program. This is what I want to do. At that point, too, I hadn't worked for almost a year. So
that's
I didn't have a
insane.
lot of money, but I was like, I'm doing this. Like,
Yeah,
I'm going to invest in myself,
yeah,
and something that I really care about. So that is really the story of, taking that time away,
yeah,
and falling in love with travel in a new way,
yeah.
and realizing like how important it is to step away from the busyness of every day.
Fantastic story. I'm so curious about like how when you went to Europe for 3 months, did you do it all in one suitcase? Like one suitcase? And did you live in one suitcase for 3 months? And
I did. I had
did
like
you
my
plan all of it? Did you have a week planned, 2 weeks
So
planned?
these are all really good questions. It was one suitcase. It was like a medium-sized, check bag, which I regretted. Actually, I was like, I wish I could have traveled lighter, because cobblestones in Europe, always a pain. Stairs in Europe, always a pain.
Yeah,
I got to go to workout carrying that bag around. Um, Along the way, I got rid of stuff. I got new stuff. It was, a lesson in like letting go. But knowing myself, I'm a planner. It's probably why I also fell into being a travel advisor.
right.
So I started my trip, like I planned the first probably month and a half. And then I said to myself, what am I doing? Like, I'm not allowing myself to be really spontaneous and just see, if I meet people that are going somewhere, or if I hear about a place that I want to check out, like I can just go. I don't have to have everything
Yeah,
organized and planned. And so it took me a little time to let go of that,
yeah,
and just, kind of let things happen. And it was, again, it was the greatest thing I could have done, because I did that month, living in this
yeah,
house with other volunteers, and
yeah,
working on this vineyard. And then from there, I was like, I'm going to find another place to do this, because I loved it so much. And then I kind of was like, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to go here. And so I really enjoyed the spontaneity. I still had some structure around it, but it was nice to let go a little bit more.
And what about now that that's 5 years ago now, or a little
Yeah.
more than 5 years ago, um, actually six,
Time
six or
time has
seven.
flown. Yes.
um, do you feel like it satisfied this like unquenchable desire to travel, or did it almost make it worse? Do you travel a lot? You still travel a lot?
Yeah. I don't think I'll ever quite travel like that ever again in my life. It's a very, for 10 months, for 10, what was ended up being about 10 months. Like that's a lot.
Yeah,
I don't think I want to be gone maybe that long again.
yeah,
What I think it did, I never studied abroad in college, and I think it kind of quenched that, but I never
mm,
had that
yeah.
experience.
That's
Um,
exactly what happened with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that was like, I that was something I was missing. And I was really glad I got to do this other sort of version of that. Um, a little bit older, maybe a little wiser, with a little bit more money in my pocket.
yeah,
But it also, to your point, like it encouraged me to travel even more. I did most of that trip by myself. And not only did that, like, I think make me just even feel better about traveling alone. It also just like, I realized like there's so much to see and so many places to go,
Yeah.
and not to wait until it's the right time or you have the right person to go with. But it
Mhm.
was one of those reminders of like, just go, just do it. And if you have the time and the means, I was lucky enough to have both of those things, um, just to do it.
Yeah. So let's turn to your branding because I think you've done an incredible job with your branding.
Thank you.
A model student. I love the name of your business. And I love the whole look and feel. It just kind of oozes a really fantastic and well done message. Um, in the escape plan that I will be revealing in my book, the one of the very first things in the 6-step components is to start with why, so that you build your whole business around your brilliance, um, rather than building a business from your head. You're building a business from your heart as opposed to your head. So, what is your why when it comes to planning travel for people?
It's for me, it's taking what I experienced and offering
Yeah,
that to others. So it's that gift of taking time away from your job, that burnout potential, taking the time from your busy day to day, whatever that looks like, whether it's, you could be a stay at home parent,
yeah,
or working, corporate 9 to 5.
mhm,
But it's taking that time for yourself, for the people, your loved ones, whoever you're traveling with, um, and having that time to reconnect. And again, it can be reconnecting with yourself, with those people around you, with the world around you. That really was what I think I got out of my experience and what I wanted to be able to offer to others.
yes, for sure, for sure. Um, so let's talk about your journey, your business journey. Because
Mhm.
the travel journey is just so cool. Um, did it take you, talk about like the growth time and the impatience, and how long did it take? Did it take longer than you wanted it to take? Are you where you want to be yet? You know,
Yeah,
all of those
that's
questions that someone who's considering this would be like wanting the answers.
Yeah, I mentioned when I got involved in with GTN in the Travel MBA program, I was part of the July 2019 cohort.
Oh my gosh, you started before the pandemic.
Yes. So my experience, I think,
Oh
and
wow.
probably unique to, those of us who started before, there's probably the people who started kind of in the midst of it and then just
Yeah,
after. For me, I had just gotten my brand, my website,
yeah,
all that good stuff done. That like September, October of 2019.
yeah,
And I had a couple trips, not very many. I had a friend who
yeah.
was like, take a chance on me, first client. I got to figure things out with her. I had clients travel to Japan in March of 2020. They
Oh my
actually
god.
went. The whole time I was terrified they were going to get
Oh my
trapped in
god.
Japan. And then I had one other
Oh,
client trip that was booked for the spring of 2020 that ended up getting canceled.
canceled.
And I didn't have, I hadn't put, other than the work I'd put into my brand, my messaging, I didn't have a roster of clients. I didn't have a lot of trips
Yeah,
booked. And it made it almost easy for me to say, I'm going to press pause.
pause. Yeah,
I had a full time job because I needed to start making money again after
okay.
being gone for so long, and so I was doing that. I was living in New York at the time.
Wow.
COVID experience in living in New York City was pretty rough, and
Yeah, it was.
it was a depressing time. And
Yeah,
the idea of talking about travel, about telling people to travel, it was very uncomfortable for me.
yeah,
And so I just was like, you know what? I believe in this thing that I'm starting. I'm not ready to do it right now. And so I pushed pause on everything,
yeah,
because I didn't really, other than one client trip, I didn't really have much to unwind at that point.
yeah.
I saw how supportive GTN was for those advisors who were obviously had lots of business, lots of clients traveling, a lot of heartache and hard work that went into unwinding all of those trips and figuring all of those things out. And I was like, I'm grateful to be part of this community that is so supportive. But right now, what I need to do for myself is take a step back. And so our travel MBA program felt a little bit shortened because I think so many of us just didn't know what to do. And those calls that we would have with Lisa Fletcher, like they just got kind of sad. And so I just, I was like, I'm just going to figure out other things in my life. And I'm going to, keep the lights turned on for my business. I stayed part of DTN, but I really didn't do much for my business. And so that was, spring 2020. I really didn't do anything again until 22. And so I took a little break, and I think it was the right thing for me to do. I joined calls when I could. I stayed connected, but I wasn't planning travel. I think I planned one trip in that 2-year time period. It was like a random person that came to me and I said, I think I still want to do this. So I'm going to do it. And actually that client has been a great client ever since. But when I came back in 2022, at that point I was living in Atlanta. I had a whole different life. And I was like, different job, different life. I was ready to really put this passion project back. My now husband, my boyfriend at the time, was like, you love this, you care about this.
Aww.
Why aren't you doing it?
I love that.
And he was the best thing to have in my life, because he really, he could tell that this was important to me. And so I restarted things in the spring or summer of 2022. And so my growth story looked a little different because I felt like I was sort of starting from scratch. I was like, I got to remember how to do stuff. And things have changed, and post-COVID at that point, right? But I was so excited to be back. And ever since, I feel like it's just every year has been incredible growth for me. It's steady growth. It's not like, $1 million in sales yet, but I think what I know is that I'm steadily growing my business and preparing myself for eventually getting to, higher number of sales. I think it's been great to be back in it. And I think, I see the success that I've had. And I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
I love that. Absolutely. And there's I thought we had some parallels in our own stories, considering the whole burnt out corporate career. But there's another parallel, which is I started my travel business 6 months before September 11th, the events of September 11th. And so this is a very similar situation in travel. I mean, the world shut down, travel-wise. We didn't have TSA. TSA is because of September 11th.
Right. It's hard to remember that.
Right? We have to take our shoes off. Well, I guess they're stopping that now.
Yes, now we don't have to, yeah.
But we've been having to do that since September 11th. So I also had that kind of really uncomfortable up and down start, and then had to put it on pause. And then when I came back and reimagined how I was going to start this business, it was with a business partner, and eventually actually sold my half of the business to her, and she's still in business, Hills of Africa Travel. So it's cool because people think that would be not how they would want things to go, but it was so perfect.
Yeah. I looked back, I had initial goals and plans when I first started my business. I'm like, by 2022, this is all going to happen. I'm like, well, that, I didn't know there was going to be a global pandemic in 2020. It can totally change everything. So, I think, it was how it was meant to be. And that's, for me, it was the right choice to, again, take a pause, but stay connected to the community. And I'm so grateful for the GTN community. Even though I was like loosely involved, it still
Yes.
felt like good to be part of it.
So we like to support people for wherever they are on their journey. And so even with the Travel MBA program, we have some people who are doing it completely full time. And then we have others who are working full-time jobs until they grow the business to the point where they can leave the full-time job. Asa Portuguese is a perfect example, who was a guest several
Yes.
months ago. But where are you? Are you still working full-time? And do you have vision for, do you have some kind of like mark on the calendar? Like this is hopefully when we're going to quit.
I do. I do and I don't, right? I do have a full-time job. I work fully remote, which kind of makes
Yeah.
things a little bit easier to
Yes, it definitely
juggle
does.
both.
Yes.
And so, and it's very flexible. I have unlimited PTO also. So that's
Wow.
also very helpful when it comes to
Yeah.
traveling or going to conferences or FAMs. I don't take too much advantage of it, but I use it to its extent, to be able to, to do travel, whether it's personal or for business. And I do have, an idea of when I would like to step out. I think partially it's based on like the growth of my business and continual growth that I've seen is great. I want to ramp that up a little bit more so that I do feel like I can step away and that I have a business that I feel like I can continue to grow. I think especially stepping away and being able to invest fully into that, I know that can just help things take off even more. So feeling comfortable with that. Also, my husband and I talk about it. He knows this is my dream to do my travel business full time, and so of course he's very supportive of that. But we have bills to pay, so it's making sure that that we're talking about that, what that looks like together.
Yes.
And making a plan for that. So it's something that I do want to do in the next few years. I think the challenge for me, with my full-time job is I can tell like where my passion is, and the passion is with my travel business. And so the challenge is often just, the time that I'm able to spend on my business versus my day-to-day job, and being able to juggle those two things, and also like juggling it mentally, emotionally, can be difficult. And so I know where my heart is. And it's just as I continue to grow the business, feeling comfortable.
It's a process, and
Yeah.
I love it. You're demonstrating tremendous patience, and this journey takes patience. I
It does.
say it all the time. You need to be able to suppress your need for instant gratification.
Yes.
um, Now people think, oh, if I, invest in something like the Travel MBA program where it's totally guided, that means I'm not going to make any mistakes. And while we would like to think that would be great if but it doesn't necessarily prevent you from making mistakes. It hopefully illuminates you to not, it reduces the number of mistakes. But even when you do, you've got the support and guidance of other people to help you navigate it. Are there any mistakes that you can think about that you made? I'll give an example of a mistake that I made, but I didn't have the guidance. I'll never forget one of the very first trips I planned. It was to Africa, and I worked with a DMC, which I didn't even know what a DMC was at the time. DMC stands for Destination Management Company, which is basically the expert in that destination, and they're based in that destination. And when they quoted the trip for me, for my client, they sent me a net rate. And so and I knew that if I wanted to make commission on it, that I had to mark up the net rate. And I'm a math minor, almost a math major, but anyway, I know math. I'm a pretty good person. I'm pretty good at math. And I still calculated the commission wrong, and it was to my detriment, I really sold myself short and made a lot less commission. I barely made anything on it. So there you go. So now I think I wrote a blog article years ago about this, and we definitely infused that one in the program to make sure we teach you how to do that calculation correctly. But any kind of mistakes that you learned from?
I mean, that first trip that I did for a friend, again,
Yeah.
grateful that was a friend of mine.
Yeah.
She was someone that she and her boyfriend were traveling to France, and because I had just spent a bunch of time in France, she's like, "I know you can plan this amazing trip for me," and I'm like, "Great." She wanted to do like Airbnb style accommodations, and I didn't
Just
really
what a
know.
luxury travel advisor
Yeah.
wants to hear.
I didn't know anything at
Yeah,
that
you
point.
don't.
And so I was like, all right, well, where do I find this type of, apartments and this and this? And the eventual route that I took was definitely not luxury. It was in their probably more in their price point, but it was definitely not luxury.
Yeah.
And they had a lot, and they were like, "This is what we want." And I was like, "Are you sure?" And they said yes. And then they had a terrible, terrible time.
Yes.
And fortunately, it was a good friend, so she was
Yes.
like very cool about everything.
Yeah.
But
She wasn't blaming
it,
it on you because
she
you
wasn't
gave her what
blaming it on
she
me.
wanted. Yeah.
But it sounded like these places they stayed were terrible. I used a partner
Mhm.
that's not a preferred partner. They
Yeah.
definitely weren't, I don't think, preferred at that time either. And I kind of cobbled every single piece of
Yeah.
that trip
Yeah.
together because I didn't
Learn
know
what to
better.
do.
Yeah, I didn't know how to use a DMC at that point. I didn't know. I'm sure we were learning about it, but I was like, I'm just going to figure this out for her. And that was a total mistake. And I'm sure because she was my first client, I charged a very small fee. I did charge a fee. I charged fees from the
Yeah.
beginning, but I charged a very small fee. And I probably got like $10 an hour for
Right.
what I was doing for her.
Well, especially piecing together Airbnbs. Yeah, my guess is you probably got more like $1 an
Yeah,
hour.
probably.
I've been there. I know what that takes, and it's, oh my goodness, yes.
So
Um,
I did use a
so
DMC for my second trip, the one that did not, that somehow they got to go to Japan and not got
bless
canceled.
you.
And, I feel like I learned a lesson very quickly on that one.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of lessons there. I'll never forget an advisor in the GIFT community, the Global Institute for Travel Entrepreneurs community, years and years ago. Had a similar story where she made that kind of a mistake, and she for then on was like, I am not doing 3-star. I'm not even doing 4-star. And she said the reason why I'm only doing 5-star luxury trips anymore is because, number one, it takes longer, not even less time, or not even the same amount. It often takes more time. I get paid less. And ultimately, the client isn't nearly as happy because when you are booking 5-star type of trips, you're working with partners that are also delivering a level of service that you're delivering. So there's like that consistency with that.
Mhm.
And it just, my favorite analogy that she used to use is like, so when someone comes to me and they don't want 5-star, they only have a budget for 3 or 4-star, her response to them is, it's kind of like, I'm a BMW dealership and you have the budget for a Toyota.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you to go to the Toyota dealership.
Yep. No, it's totally true. I think
Have
I
you
do.
had that experience of having to now turn
Yes.
people down because of
Yes.
their budget?
Yeah, and actually this came up in our Accelerate call yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was specifically speaking about some of my recent experiences where I've had clients that have come to me, here's the budget, and then they're like, this is all the stuff we want to do. I'm like, cool, you're basically at the minimum of what I can support. And then they're like, actually, we're gonna decrease the budget. And I'm like, now we have to, we have to change something in the trip. If you still want the quality of the trip, cut some time out, adjust how, the touring that we have planned. And it's been a challenging conversation. And really what
Yes.
I came to the Accelerate call with was I need to put better guidelines and processes in place prior to getting on the call with those clients to make sure that it is clear, this is the minimum budget that I can work with, or this is what the expectations are in XYZ destination. If you want to go to Italy or France, and it might be different than if you want to go to South Africa or Japan.
Right.
But having a sense of what that budget looks like and getting in front of that, because it has been something where I'm then either having to turn people away or we're really having to wrestle budgets around. And I really hate doing that. And I don't like having to work with our partners, sort of move things around like that when the client suddenly change their budget.
Yeah. It's a constant question, I guess, and it's a very common newbie experience to feel like, oh shoot, now that I've got this, I'm so excited I have an inquiry, but oh boy, this budget is not great. And it's, that's part of this journey, is learning how to have those conversations with people
Yeah.
in a way that's not, you're not insulting them by saying, and you're not telling them their budget's bad. You're just saying, my best in use is when I work with 5-star partners, and you have a different budget. And if you don't have the budget this time, that's fine. But the next time you do, and maybe things change, and you do have a budget, then you know where to come. What about, let's talk about do you have uh, a business? What would you say is your superpower?
Ooh.
Whether it's travel planning or business wise, it could be either
Yeah.
one.
So one thing I hear from my clients, I don't think I would identify this for myself, but based on what I hear from my clients again and again is, you picked the perfect place for us. This was the perfect hotel. This was the perfect destination. As I often have clients who come to me and say, we have 10 ideas. We don't know where to go. And they're all over the map, literally. And so it's like, how do I help you find the place to go? And so that is something I think that sort of matchmaking ability with the destination or with a partner or hotel to help clients have the best experience by matching them with those places. And it feels really good when I hear that feedback from my clients, because that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. And, getting to know your client up front so that you can identify what are the best partners or places to send them. But then hearing from them, this was great, this was perfect for our family, or this was exactly the type of place, we needed to go. So I think that's probably something I have discovered.
You just have like an innate knowing,
Yes.
like this is kind of the perfect place for them.
Yeah.
What resources do you use for that? Do you use the virtuoso resources? Do you spend hours and hours just Googling?
I probably spend too much time sometimes going through our hotel preferred partner sites and Virtuoso. I also I use the Hive quite frequently.
Oh, cool! I love
So
that.
I'm a frequent contributor to that one,
Okay.
and cause, it takes people putting stuff in there to really get the most out of it. Because when I do use that resource, just find out just a little bit more about, if someone has reviewed a destination or a hotel, for example, or can just tell me this was great for my clients with small kids. Well, that's great. That's what I'm actually looking for this time around. So that can be a great resource as well. Or even just to help me filter down which properties to look into more. And then also getting to know our supplier partners, whether that's virtual events, Partner Connect, or conference where we get to meet with partners, or, in the Atlanta area, we get a lot of partners coming here. And
Right.
so it's a nice opportunity to get to know suppliers, get to know a little bit more about different properties, so that I can, I think building up that knowledge to then really be able to figure out what the right place is for my
Yeah.
client.
Very, very cool. In terms of your vision for where you're going, and there's the solopreneur route, which we support at GTN, but there's also building a team route, which we support, and they're both great paths. So you can go either way. You just have to kind of decide which one is more in alignment with who you are and what you want. Which path are you thinking for your business?
I think I'm leaning the solopreneur route. And now ideally I just brought on a virtual assistant that I've been working with for the last few
Oh,
months.
good for you!
So
Congratulations.
that's been a big help. It's a small amount of time right now per month, but it is helping a lot in terms of helping me focus on certain things. She really helps me manage my inbox, which when juggling two jobs can be very life changing. It's hard to
I
find what I
bet.
need to pay attention to sometimes. Um, so that has been really great. But I think ultimately I'd love to go the route of, bringing on team members to assist with, client care,
Mhm.
marketing, social media. I like some of it now. I love writing my email newsletter. I hate doing my social media. And so there are things that I know that I would love to outsource and
Yeah.
bring on actual team members and not just to a virtual assistant
Mhm.
eventually. So that's the direction I see myself going.
And what about your husband? Do you think he'll ever join in the business? Does he love what
I
he does? And
He would be perfect. I keep telling him he can be my assistant. But he loves planning. He loves planning trips.
oh wow,
We both love Excel. So there's definitely some shared interest there. Um, and so I keep saying, like, maybe, if he's ready to retire in a little while or when he wants to change his career, we could work together. But he definitely has the skills to be part of this team.
yeah. What are some trips you've been able to do because you've taken this journey that you probably would never have done?
Probably the biggest one was last year. I got to go on a fam to Japan.
Oh wow,
It was kind of, I feel like this was a Meredith moment because I said at the end of 2023, if I go on one fam in 2024, it's to Japan. I'm not going anywhere
wow,
else. That's all I'm going to do. And a virtuoso study tour was announced. I applied. I didn't get it. And then shortly after that, there was an opportunity with Classic Vacations to go on a fam. And so I got selected somehow for that trip. And it was incredible. It was a whirlwind. It was,
yeah,
7 days, 5 hotels, like a lot of, places to go, experiences that we could offer to our clients. It was staying at, again, beautiful 5-star properties around the country, and really learning the destination. And I'd planned trips to Japan before, and
already.
I
Okay, yeah,
think really getting to know the destination on the ground is like a life
yeah,
changer. I just had clients come back from Japan. They were there the early June, and it was so much easier for me to plan this trip because I could really clearly explain to them exactly how their itinerary was going to work. It was the same itinerary I had done.
yeah.
And, they were traveling with 4 small kids. Like, they wanted all of that help and all the information. And I wouldn't have had that without that fam experience. Um,
Mhm.
that was a pretty special trip. And I think the other trip I would say that was pretty special because of this job, is I took my honeymoon last fall. I got married last fall, and my husband and I went to Argentina,
Oh
and
wow,
I took all the planning on, and he
Yeah.
was happy to let me do that. But I was like, we're going to have like the 5-star
Yeah.
experience. Like, we're
Yeah.
going to do it. And he was a little like, this was a little out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
And of course, he loved every minute of it. But I worked with the DMC. We stayed at beautiful 5-star properties the whole trip. And he was like, this is amazing. And
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been able to maybe convince him of
Yes.
that
Mm-hmm.
without having this experience and being able to tell him, like, this is why we're working with, this DMC is going to put all of this stuff together. And here's why we're not going to plan it ourselves. And we're not
Mm-hmm.
going to just get an Uber, but we're going to do all of these things and have this partner curate all of these experiences for us. And he recognized the value in the long term of that approach. But I think it was getting to experience that too for myself, and having that, like, what I want for my clients was really important.
Yeah. I want to talk about specialization. I think it's a concept that people really struggle to do the right way. And I feel like you figured that out, because you've got this, you said it, when you first talked about your journey, you fell in love with diving. And I know that you do have a specialty in luxury dive trips. Both for the experienced diver and the one who wants to get certified. And I think someone new might think, come with that specialty, well, with that passion, so, oh, should I just specialize in dive trips? And we really specialize in a type of client. They might want a dive trip or they might not. But so you can have the specialty in diving, but really specialize in a type of client, which is luxury traveler who likes to explore. Most likely, a lot of those people are going to also have an appetite for diving. Um, did you struggle? Did you come thinking maybe I should just specialize in diving? Like, how did that evolve?
I feel like it was almost, I guess when I started my business, that was really fresh because I had just had that
Mhm.
experience. And so I
Yeah.
knew I wanted diving to be somehow part of my business. I
Hmm.
didn't want it to be everything. And I didn't really know how to work it in.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of why also, like, again, COVID happened and there's a lot of me pausing things for a while. But I started diving again in 2022. And all of these things happened together. And I knew, like, this is something I do really, and I enjoy doing. I'm passionate about it. Why am I not talking about this more? Why am I not focusing on it more? I kind of say I have a specialty in, adventure travel, and obviously diving falls under that. But really starting to dive deeper, I guess pun intended, on our partners that can best support luxury dive travel, whether they're hotel partners in certain destinations or
Mhm.
small ship experiences in places like the Galapagos or
Yeah.
Indonesia. And so I've done a lot of work just to get to know some of these partners and these experiences. And I just know that this is also what it excites me.
Yeah.
And so I know it feels right, but I know it's also like it's a specialty, but it's not my whole business.
Yeah.
And I think exactly what you said, Maren. Like, it's the client, and that client might be the kind of person who's interested in doing these things.
Mhm.
But it's also probably someone, maybe they want to go dive 2 times, 3 times during their vacation. They
Right.
don't want to go and be on a liveaboard for a whole week and
Yeah.
dive 35 times. So,
Right.
I think it's the finding the right type of client who wants that luxury 5-star
Yeah.
experience
Mhm.
and also want to have some of that adventure built in.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. We are almost at the top of the 45 minutes. So I always like to close with that question about your favorite pinch me, oh my God, I can't believe I get to do this for a living moment. And it doesn't have to be a travel moment either. Do you want to share one for you?
Sure. This is actually a recent one. I had two separate family trips that went out in early June.
Wow.
And they
So it's
were
very recent.
six person trips, one to Belize and one to Japan. And
Wow.
both of those trips were about the same time. And then when the clients came back, I got to talk to them and hear a little bit more about their trip. And one of them, she's showing me videos of her daughter feeding a stingray in
Oh
Belize.
my
And she's like, we did this, they chartered a yacht in Belize and got to have this really amazing experience, while they were there.
God.
And her, 7-year-old daughter is getting to do this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
seeing this is amazing. And hearing her stories about how, they were celebrating their other son's college graduation and there were
Right.
decorations on the ship and like
Oh my
how
God.
it was so perfect. And I was like, I only did some of this, but like, I love hearing this feedback about what our
Yeah.
partners were able to do.
Yeah.
And then for the trip that went to Japan, actually, the client sent me a 17-minute Loom video
Oh my
with her
gosh.
feedback, like day by day, and showing me photos on her screen of their trip. And like, it blew me away because
Yeah.
I'd never gotten feedback like that before.
Yeah.
And I
And
think like,
how cool that it was Japan because you had just
yes,
done the study
yes,
tour with the fam
it was
and
amazing.
got to
And I
sell
think
it after all that knowledge
Oh,
now. And
yes. Like it was so amazing to hear. Not only like she was so grateful for like everything I had provided to them and all the resources, but to be able to hear like those thank yous, those experiences like these families, these children have while they're
yeah.
traveling, like you don't get that in a lot of careers. You don't get thank yous in a lot of careers. And I think like getting that kind of feedback to me is one of the most special parts of this job.
Mm.
And it feels so good to hear, about these unique experiences. Like our family got to spend time together or like our kids explored a whole new culture for the first time.
Mm.
And that is really one of my favorite things about doing this work.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it has been wonderful getting to know you. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I am pretty sure there's going to be somebody listening and gets inspired by your Eat, Pray, Love story. Congratulations, Erin.
Thank you, Meredith. This was great.